Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Let's give a bracha to the hosts, to the Fronins. They should be blessed with outpouring of divine favor and ruchnius and in gashmius. L'chaim, 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 everybody, and good chodesh. Good chodesh. We're also recording tonight. This is a very auspicious evening. As Jonathan mentioned, it is Rosh Chodesh Adar. And thank you. What is in this drink? Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Thank you. Tonight's talk, learning, I call it Pesach during wartime. And of course, our immediate thoughts, and my thoughts from the moment I wake up until the moment I don't actually go to sleep at night because I'm checking the news, are on what's happening in Israel and in the Middle East. Since the war started, I have not stopped being in touch with my family and friends in Eretz Yisrael. Multiple times a week, sometimes every day, just seeing how people are doing. And it is a really, really sensitive and emotional time for the Jewish people. So I thought I'll do a class tonight on Pesach during wartime. And they say, well, Rabbi Yonah, hey, LA, chill. Actually, overly warm weather, kind of summer-like in the spring. Isn't that a bit of a downer? Barkert, the opposite. I'd like to talk about how we can connect and be inspired by what's going on in the world right now. I want to start with 3 things to keep in mind this Pesach, which I think are very, very important, and then I want to talk about Pesach during wartime, but it's all connected, as you'll see. When the war broke out on October 7th, and this is just, in my opinion, a continuation of that war, we started to, unfortunately, get a little bit accustomed to rockets falling in Israel and violence in Israel. Oh, Hezbollah, they launched. It was only 50 rockets? Okay. Yeah. Iron Dome can handle that, you know. Oh, 6 salvos of missiles from Iran? Oh, yeah, David Sling's got that, no problem. We become a little bit let's call it adjusted to things which really we should not find normal, right? So, fascinating thing. It's during the month of Nisan that we actually have enormous power, because it was this month that we were freed from slavery in Mitzrayim. We have the Seder in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from tonight. And there's a concern. The sages were always worried that we would become comfortable in exile. We've been in exile for a long time. And it's human nature to want to be comfortable with your surroundings, no matter what they are, no matter how challenging they are. We want to be comfortable. However, being in exile as we are, and this we're talking about spiritual and physical exile, being comfortable is a great coping mechanism, but it can disassociate us with what's happening to our family and friends around the world. I saw an article today, by the way, this is an aside, about what's going on in Canada. You might have heard what happened in Michigan a few days ago. I grew up in Detroit. My grandparents were founders of Temple Israel. They were founding members. My father was bar mitzvah there. talk about hitting home, right? Uh, it, it this it's an illusion to think that somehow we are isolated from what's going on in the world, and that isolation is a symptom of gullus, of exile. That's a symptom of exile. That we can disassociate ourselves from what's happening to Jews elsewhere. Really, we have to always remind ourselves, hey, it's Detroit, that might as well be Studio City. It's Toronto, they shot up a shul in Toronto, might as well be Pico. Ballistic missile fell in Ramat Gan, a cluster bomb killed an elderly couple. That could have been my neighbors. On the flip side of that, I want to remind everybody what Chazal taught us. It says that in Nisan we were redeemed from Egypt, and in Nisan we will be redeemed. The redemption of Pesach is not just something that happened back 3,500 years ago. The redemption is something which will happen again, and it will happen from the energy of Nisan. That was a very LA phrase. The energy of Nisan. Okay. Right? Nisan, we were redeemed, and Nisan, we will be redeemed. That's what the sages taught. Okay. The second thing, very important to tell us. How do we help? We're here like, we're thousands of miles away from Eretz Yisrael. And our brothers and sisters are running to bomb shelters every few hours, every night. Well, one of the things which the war does, which is so challenging, is that it knocks out people's parnasa, people who make their living as tour guides, people who make their living in different industries which are shut down, and so forth, entrepreneurs, teachers, others. There's a lot of people who are not being paid. And I want to propose that everybody here, according to your abilities, of course, contribute to help a Jew in Israel make their Passover Seder. There are people who literally don't have the resources, and they're in debt to make Pesach. So I'm sure Jonathan knows some people. I'm collecting for some people in Israel. There are other charities that are collecting for Jews in Israel making Pesach. And while it's important to support Magen David Adom and Hatzalah, God bless them for the important work they do, it's also important to just actually give money to poor Jews in Israel who need our help. We live in luxury. Even those of us who are struggling financially, we don't have a war raging over our skies. And that mitzvah is called Kimcha de Pischa. Way back in the Talmudic times, the rabbis recognized that there always would be Jews who needed our help to make Seder. And in Aramaic, it's called Kimcha de Pischa. In Hebrew, it's called Ma'ot Chitim, or Maos Chitim, which is a funny word because it says money for wheat. Don't send wheat, right? We want to send money so people can buy matzah, can buy wine. You know, Moshe and I today, we were going around trying to find online and making calls. Where can we get a good deal on Shmura matzah? By the way, Pavilions had a pretty good deal. Costco, much better deal. Ralph's, don't go there, $42 a box. For Shmura matzah for the Seder. I will take the moment, since I mentioned Moshe, to just give enormous hakaras hatov to my eldest son, Moshe Chaim. Could everybody just recognize him, please? Thank you. Who set up tonight's Zoom. Moshe today woke up. The first thing he did is he ran to the shul and helped reconnect all the security cameras to the internet that had somehow reset themselves. He spent hours on the phone working on that problem with the camera company. And then he went, helped the Jewish family sweep for bugs. They were worried that something had happened, that somebody was spying on them. sweeping for bugs. And then he did some work for one of his clients. And exactly, I'm talking good timing for a little sweeping for bugs. And we have the James Bond theme. And then after he picked me up from my office and drove me, I was like, Moshe, would you drive me to Studio City and set up my class for me? He's like, sure. So really, thank you, Moshe Chaim. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Yes, he deserves it. He deserves it. Okay. And the third thing to keep in mind, everybody, is that Pesach is the time of minhagim, customs. Now, a lot of times people don't recognize how important their family customs on Passover really are. But having been in this business for more than 30 years as a rabbi in many different communities around the world, I'll tell you that having Passover customs, and especially ones that have run in your family, whatever they are, is extremely important to keep those customs. There's a concept that the rabbis teach us. It's called Minhag Yisrael Torahi. Anybody ever heard that one? Minhag Yisrael Torahi. It goes like this. If the halacha is a certain way in the Shulchan Aruch, but your family history is to do things a different way, for example, on Passover, which one takes precedent? In other words, Jewish law books or what your bubby taught you? What do you think? What your bubby taught you is more important than the Jewish law book. Your bubbies and zadies, your grandparents, great-grandparents, their traditions, your parents' traditions that they passed on to you on Passover are so holy and important that wherever you are on Pesach, whatever you do on Pesach, try to keep them going. They might be easy, they might be hard, but I promise you that there is enormous spiritual reward for doing that. And we don't pay attention to those enough. You know what people do? They go, they look, oh, what's the OU say? What's the Star K say? What's Chabad.org say? And that's great. I'm not putting them down. But what does Bubby say? What does Saba and Safta say? This is how we used to do it. That is very, very important. Those customs, when they're lost, can never be regained. And it only takes one generation to lose a custom. That's it. Because it's you, if you don't pass it on, if you don't do it and then pass it on, it disappears. In 1862, that's a long time ago, there was a magazine called The Jewish Messenger, and it published an account by a man named J.A. Joel of the 23rd Ohio Volunteer Regiment. What was happening in the United States in 1862? Anybody know? Civil War. Who said Civil War? Civil War, exactly. The Ohio Volunteer Regiment. Was Ohio part of the Union or the Confederacy? Union. A Jewish soldier with the Ohio Volunteers, and it's Pesach. They are stationed in Fayette, West Virginia. Joel and 20 other Jewish soldiers, 20, are serving in the Union Army, Erev Pesach. And they asked for permission to have leave so they could have a Seder. What do you think happened? What do you think? Anybody? Okay, denied. What do you think? Approved? Okay. Here's the story what happened. Here's the story what happened. Thank you, Avi, for that. We were granted leave to observe Passover. Our next, he wrote, our next business. This is a quote from him. Our next business was to find some suitable person to proceed to Cincinnati, Ohio, and buy us matzahs. Our sutler, being co-religious and going to home to that city, readily undertook to send them. We were anxiously awaiting to receive our matzahs, and about the middle of the morning of Erev Pesach, a supply train arrived at camp, and to our delight brought 7 barrels of matzahs. 7 barrels of matzahs, right? They didn't have cardboard boxes like at Ralph's. They sent the matzahs in wooden barrels. On opening them, we were surprised and pleased to find that our thoughtful friend had enclosed 2 Haggadahs and prayer books with it. Can you have a Seder with just matzah? I suppose, but wouldn't you want a few more things? Okay. So what did they do? Well, we obtained 2 kegs of cider, a lamb, several chickens, and some eggs. Horseradish or parsley we could not get. Nobody had any. So we found some weeds whose bitterness, I comment, exceeded anything that our ancestors enjoyed. Since we were not able to acquire the right ingredients for charosis, they decided to put a brick on the table. Not to eat, but to look at, and be reminded the hard labor of our ancestors that they did in Egypt. A few months after this Seder, in September 1862, Joel was wounded in the Battle of South Mountain in Maryland. After the war, he moved to New York. He worked as a flag merchant and edited the veterans magazine called Grand Army Gazette. And he wrote down his remembrances of the war in that newspaper and died in 1906. Now, you might have seen movies where during World War I, they had like opposing armies stop fighting on Christmas Day. Anybody see that? Okay. Well, what happens on Pesach during the Civil War in the United States? You have Jews on both sides of the conflict, right? Just like in World War I, there were Jews on both sides of the battle lines, German soldiers. My wife's great-grandfather was a German officer in World War I. He was decorated and got a medal and all kinds of stuff. Actually, Moshe's going to Germany to go visit his grave soon. So check this out. During the Civil War, there were Union soldiers who were unable to make their own Seder. So they found the local town, and there's a story of a soldier, Mayor Levy from Philadelphia. He was in Virginia on Pesach, and he saw a young boy in a little village eating matzah. Levy asked the boy, "Hey, could I have a piece of matzah? It's Pesach." The child ran indoors, shouting at the top of his lungs. The little boy said, "Mama, there's a damn Yankee Jew outside." Right? He was in the South. He was in Virginia. And this Union soldier, this Jewish soldier sees him, and he thinks, oh, it's going to all be good. What happened? The boy's mother invited the Union soldier for Seder. That's a true Civil War story. I have a lot of these stories. I'm fascinated by how Jewish people have managed to have Pesach during wartime. And I think the reason is this. As I mentioned earlier, we called Pavilions Ralph's Costco. We didn't even bother yet with the Jewish stores. To be a Jew Today, here in America, piece of cake. It's all up to us what we do. But I find enormous inspiration by seeing what our ancestors in difficult circumstances did. Now, I'll end with this thought. This is from the Tiferet Shlomo, whose yard site was today. He was a Hasidic rabbi in Poland who founded the Radomsk dynasty. And he said that everything in life worth getting, I'm paraphrasing, everything requires, in Judaism, requires mesiras nefesh, requires some level of self-sacrifice. Everything worth getting in Jewish life requires some level of self-sacrifice. And I know we like to, and it's easy to complain about some of the challenges that we face, even here in this very wealthy city, of affording certain things on Passover or other holidays, or Jewish day school, or other kinds of things which cost a lot of money. But I'm reminded of the word Tiferet Shlomo, who said this in Poland in the 1850s, right? Or even earlier, that everything requires some level of self-sacrifice. Whenever a Jew wants to elevate themselves, it requires some level of effort. If there's not a little bit of sweating, then we're not earning it. May everybody have a joyous Pesach, a Pesach full of inspiration and meaning. May we remember all of our brothers and sisters in Israel and not let them go hungry this Pesach. May we keep all of, to the best of we can, our Babis and Zaydis and Saba and Saftas customs. And may this be truly the last Pesach in exile, spiritual or physical. And just like our ancestors were redeemed from Egypt, may we be redeemed this year. B'mei Rameinu Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim.